Se kötél, se vacsora. Fáj a hasa! Fáj a hasa! Mind megette! Mind megette! Leszakom!
You know, I think with how much animation comes out of the US and Japan, we tend to forget that there's literally a whole world of animation out there waiting to be discovered, or rediscovered in this case. Son of the White Mare is a Hungarian film released in 1981, and recently polished up with an amazing 4K remaster by Arbalos Films. It was directed by Marcel Jankovic, who's anointed forever as director of the first Hungarian animated movie, Johnny Corncob, which was also remastered by Arbalos, and is included in the Son of the White Mare Blu-ray, along with some shorts he made. Now that's how you package a movie. Side note, I'm glad that someone else besides Criterion has taken it upon themselves to restore these old, weird-ass movies. They don't need to have a monopoly on the freaky shit I like. Long ago there were 3 princes, who ruled the land with their 3 wives. The wives foolishly, despite being forewarned by the king, released the dragons imprisoned under the great tree. The dragons killed the princes, took the wives for their own, and conquered the land. A divine mare escapes the dragon's chains and gives birth to her 3rd son. As the boy grows to adulthood, he's endowed with the name Tree Shaker as a profession of his godly strength, and takes upon himself the quest to slay the dragons and free the princesses. Son of the White Mare is an adaptation of a Hungarian folktale, and how much you enjoy it will depend on your appetite for those kind of silly stories. 5 minutes into his journey, the first people that he meets, maybe in his life, are his long-lost brothers, who already know him by name. The tunnel to the underworld, where the demons dwell, is situated right beneath the hut they find in the woods. Well, that's convenient. These are enormous coincidences, but in being so big, they surpass mere luck, and reveal their face as the threads of destiny. Of course his brothers know him as soon as they see him. That's what it means to be brothers. And besides, who else will be rocking halos and mullets made of fire? His brother Stone Crumbler is jovial but cowardly, and his other brother Iron Temperer is combative but stern. Tree Shaker takes the role of the perfect noble hero between them, compassionate, brave, and honorable. In this way they mirror the dead princes before them. The events of the plot have a musical, not literal logic. Everything happens in threes. There are 3 brothers and 3 dragons, who live in 3 castles with 3 wives. Each dragon has more heads than the last, and his castle is composed of an even more precious metal, from copper to silver, and finally to gold. It's pretty convenient that each of his foes is always only a little stronger than the one before it, but if you've ever played a video game, you should be used to that kind of suspension of disbelief. But let's be real, I know you don't give a rat's ass about fairy tales. I love them, but of course, I'm a goblin. I don't often recommend a movie on the basis alone of how it looks, but wowza, this shit's rad! Watching Son of the White Mare is like being on the inside of a kaleidoscope that's been thrown into a sulfur fire. It's frequently described as psychedelic, the way that people, places, and things, all the nouns, melt into each other. But psychedelic is a descriptor for a movement that was generated in the 60s. Why is it being used here as the visual language of a fairy tale? I'm reminded of something that Great Art Explained said in his video on Hieronymus Bosch.
The Garden of Earthly Delights by Hieronymus Bosch has been interpreted in so many ways. I don't think that this is a painting about sexual freedom, or of a medieval acid trip. This is not Bosch's erotic fantasy, or even a heretical attack on the church. And this is not a painting by a member of an obscure free love cult. The Garden of Earthly Delights is pure and simply hardcore Christianity. This is a painting about sin.
Sometimes what's old is new again. Or rather, the old can be newer than the new, because its soil is so alien. Son of the White Mare can trace the lineage of its aesthetic from Yellow Submarine, but it works wonderfully here because fairy tales, by their nature, scoff at literalism and lustily embrace the symbolic. Shapeshifters densely populate the landscape of these stories. Tree Shaker is the son of a mare, a white mare if you can believe it, the queen herself, and begins his life as a horse, but then morphs into a human and remains that way. It's never questioned because, in fairy tales, these things happen, and everyone knows that nothing is ever as it seems. Nowhere does Jankovic take more liberties than with the dragons, who don't look anything like dragons. 2 of them are total anachronisms, their designs probably inspired by Cold War insecurities. But you know, I prefer this. Would we really just want to see Tree Shaker fight 3 regular-ass dragons in a row? This part of the movie is repetitive enough as it is. Yeah, I wish that the script were as trailblazing as the animation. That musical logic I was talking about earlier can work for a bedtime story, but can be tiresome or just plain irritating in a feature-length movie. Every time Tree Shaker meets a dragon, the princess pretends that he's some long-lost relative. Then they have dinner, then they fight anyway. So what's going on here? Do the dragons see through his disguise? So why invite him to dinner? Or do they just fight all of their house guests to the death? And Tree Shaker doesn't seem to realize that the mischievous gnome who stole their food was his grandfather all along, even though he met his grandfather twice before. What, is all that flaming hair roasted your brain, dude? And the movie's stately pacing means that the third act isn't treated with any higher stakes than what came before it, so the ending lacks excitement. But, even with that tedium, Son of the White Mare is remarkable. Gazing out across the wide fields of animation, it stands alone on a mountaintop, fearless and utterly unique. There's no mistaking this movie for any other, unless you've dropped a tab. But then, you'd be paying it a compliment, as you lugubriously slur, "Whoa man, this looks like that German horse cartoon," the next time that you watch Love Actually while tripping balls. Son of the White Mare is currently streaming for free on Canopy.